Do I look okay? That's fine.
Okay, cool.
I didn't do makeup or anything.
That's okay, you don't need to. All right, Better Days interview, take one, Mark. All right, cool. Well, thank you for coming and joining me today on this. First thing is, could you, actually, hang on one second. Let's a little bit closer to the camera here.
Okay.
You look like you're looking off into the distance. There we are. Let's look up. Okay. Tell me your name and what your role is on this project. And please spell your name so I can get it right on the lower third and don't embarrass myself.
Okay, great. I'll do that first. It's John Valinez. It's JohnValines. And hi, my name is John Valinez. I'm the creator of Better Days. It's a live theatrical sitcom that we're doing here at the Sac Comedy Lab. I co-write the show with Todd Kimbrough, who's another local writer and talent here in Orlando, and I direct the show. I won't always be the director of the show. I'm basically the director for the first few episodes until we get it on its feet, and then we're going to look at other directors and stuff like that.
So tell us a little bit more about Better Days, what the idea of the story is, what the concept of the show is.
Okay. The concept of Better Days and the idea behind it is really, is to pay homage to TV sitcoms. Ones that we grew up with, ones that we watch now. It's very influenced by Cheers, by How I Met Your Mother, by Friends. And what we're trying to capture with that is what are those shows about? And it's always really about the people in the show. So we've developed 4 really close, tight, best friends, and then we add in this other friend who's going to become part of that group. And it's really, everybody has their pain, and that's something that we explore. And you see in episode 1, you see one of the characters go through something kind of tragic. And what we try to remind people is that everything that you always need is within reach, and you have your friends to look to. And your friends are the people that are going to be there for you and that won't dump you and break up with you, and they'll be the ones to help you always. So that's kind of the idea. We always go with the motto that everything you ever need is within your reach, even though you forget that sometimes.
Now, how did Better Days come about? Like, where did this come from?
Well, I've always wanted to get back into writing and directing. I've been kind of touring around with an a cappella group, Toxic Audio, and I kind of got away from that. Then early this year, I actually went through this big breakup, which you see word for word at the beginning of episode 1. And through that, rather than focus on all the negative energy that kind of creates, I was encouraged by a few friends and myself too, just to find an outlet. So I started writing, and I wasn't sure what I was writing for, and I just started to write, and I started to write about these characters. And it wasn't until last summer that I went to Mike Carr, the artistic director here at SAC, and said, hey, what if we do something scripted? What if we do like a sitcom? What if we do this continuing idea? And he said yes. So I took the writings that I had kind of been gathering, got those together. I went and I grabbed Todd Kimbrough. I said, hey, what can we do with this? And so we ended up, it kind of came from that. Todd had actually done, to give you a little bit of a backstory, I don't want to go too long here, but Todd had done an episodic theatrical sitcom before called Caffeine. And Todd and I had also co-written a show called Farrago back in the Fringe. And so we kind of took elements like, okay, these characters in Farrago, what happens to them after that show is over? And what happens to these characters in Caffeine after that show is over? So we kind of embodied some of those elements into Better Days.
Now, you had mentioned Mike, having a bit of almost trepidation going to Mike and talking to him about doing something scripted. This is SAC Comedy Lab. It doesn't necessarily say SAC Improv Lab. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why you got to do this. But being that SAC has made the name for itself as an improvisational theater, and mainly doing theater sports, how did you approach bringing Better Days to this venue?
Well, it's interesting. We're SAC Comedy Lab, and we're known for improv, and that's our history, and that's what we've been doing. But if you really go back, we're an interactive theater, and we started in Renaissance fairs doing essentially scripted works that involve audiences. We've also done scripted work. Scripted works has kind of always been part of our history up until about 10 years ago. We had shows called Fun with Science, which was a scripted musical. We did a show called The Big Oz one year for Fringe, and that was also scripted. So we've always had that. And we used to have scripted nights. We used to have Trendy Britches was a SAC sketch night. And we went to improv because that's our bread and butter, and that's what, we're known for, and that's kind of what we're best at. Because of my background and my history with SAC and having kind of these new guys come in, Mike and Chris, I just kind of brought in some of the old history and said, hey, why don't we look at some of the other elements that make us SAC Comedy Lab? Because, like you said, we're not SAC Improv Theater, we're SAC Comedy Lab. And in fact, we're actually SAC Theater Company is the name of the company. And so that's something that I'm also trying to bring back the idea of. Mike and Chris have also taken their improv and they've kind of created this motto saying that we are actors that improvise, because they want to get more into scene work. It's not just about silly, goofy. It's about real characters and real scenes in the improv. So essentially, I just kind of took that motto and said, okay, if you're actors that improvise, let's prove it. Let's give you a script and let's show people what you guys can really do, because this is an incredibly talented bunch, and I just have all the faith in the world in them. And so it's about let's show people what you guys are capable of,
So once SAC finally got on board,
Mm-hmm.
and you started really getting into the nuts and bolts of creating this, what were some of the challenges that you faced bringing Better Days to life?
The biggest challenge, and I think everybody would say this, is availability. We've got some of our improvisers, some of our favorite, SAC improvisers, along with some really great, talented actors in Orlando. Getting those people together, and we don't, we're kind of a poor company in the sense that we don't make a whole lot of money. There's not like a lot of extra cash. We don't receive grants. We don't get a lot of that free money that a lot of theaters get. So we really have to kind of come up with everything on our own. So we can't really pay for rehearsals and that sort of thing. So the biggest challenge is always like just getting everybody in the same room so that we can rehearse this thing, And then, of course, there's the whole deadline, and the timing is that, we are essentially, episode 1 is on its feet. We're rehearsing episode 2. Episode 3 has to be written before 2 goes up on its feet, and it's this kind of constant thing. So that becomes a challenge at times, and it can be a little stressful, but that's also, I knew that going in. That's kind of part of the process. So, but yeah, easily availability is, anybody would tell you that.
So it's kind of like a perpetual motion kind of thing. It never ends.
Yeah. Getting episode 1 up on its feet was crazy for everybody involved. And it's like, now episode 1 is up, and that clock starts ticking, and now we've got 1 week before episode 2 has to go up. We still have to get that baby rehearsed and make sure it's good and funny and tight, and we work in an improv world, so every rehearsal we're changing the script and we're finding and discovering ideas. So it's not just hand the actors a script and memorize this and do it. It's a process, but that's the joy that it brings me too. That's what I like about it.
Tell us about the different characters that you have in the show.
We have 5 main characters. They're sort of considered our main ensemble characters. We have Todd, who essentially is sort of designed after Ted Danson, from Cheers. He's this guy that everybody loves, and he loves everybody. He's, the core of this group. In the first episode, he goes through something where he kind of loses that sense of himself, and his other friends have to kind of be there to pick him up. We have Jeff, who is kind of the ladies' man, the a little bit of a chauvinist, and played by Chris Dinger. He makes good money. He's very secure of himself. We don't know what he does for a living. He kind of represents, like, if you think of How I Met Your Mother and you think of Barney, he's kind of that character, and there's a lot of depth to him that we haven't quite gotten to yet. He has a younger sister, Sarah. Sarah, I have to be careful when I'm talking about this because I don't want to ruin any surprises, but Sarah is quite a genius, actually. She seems very flaky, and she's funny, and Anna Eligio plays her and just plays her so beautifully that that it all comes through. But she's the baby sister. She's a waitress at the bar because, of course, Todd and Jeff are best friends, and so Todd gave the sister a job when she came back to town after doing some world travels. Then we have Jocelyn, who's actually the best friends with Jeff as well. They have this really rich history together. Let me see who, and then Ray. Ray is the nerdy guy that comes in, and he's kind of the newbie to the group, which is a little bit of a device that we're using. That's how, as Ray learns about these people, the audience learns about them. So we kind of, oddly, we sort of see the show more through Ray's eyes, especially towards in this beginning.
It's almost as Ray would say, Ray's a C-3PO and R2-D2.
Yes. Ray very much is C-3PO and R2-D2. And it's Will Hageman who's playing the part. And I got to know Will outside. And honestly, there's one of the big things is like, I want to work with that guy. And we became Facebook friends, and we got to know each other. And we're such nerds. Like, the two of us are just such, we're total geeks. And, like, you know, we went to see Star Trek Next Generation when it came back out on the theaters. And it was like, I just love that geekiness, so I wanted that. And it's basically, it's designed after the actor. It really is. I mean, he has to exaggerate. We'll say that he has to exaggerate, just, but.
So it's your five-man ensemble. There's
Mm-hmm.
one other character that kind of intrigues me, who hasn't had a line yet. Could you tell me about him?
Are you talking about the customer?
Yeah.
Or yeah, the customer. There was a funny thing. Todd wrote this bit where, because Sarah's a waitress, and so we needed her to have somebody to ignore and to be a bad waitress for. So we came up with this role of the customer, and he actually does. He says 15 words, and I wanted to work with Jose Rodriguez. And I've just really enjoyed his improv here, and he's such a nice guy. I'm like, man, will you do this show? I'm like, it's such a small part. And as we start rehearsing, it just kind of became like, let's just keep you there the whole time. Let's just have you always at the bar. You never get the drink. Once you finally get a drink, Sarah's going to come and take it away. Like, we just kept coming up with these funny things around the customer. So I'm most interested in what's going to happen with him. I think we have some ideas where we're going to delve in, but it won't be for a while, because I just like the idea of Jose sitting there, you know, all the time.